Captain Taemin stood on the bridge of the Federation starship Serenity's Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship moved quietly through space in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy. They were on a simple mission to map new star systems and look for signs of life. "Captain," called out Yu-Jin from her position at the sensor station. "I'm picking up something strange. There's a ship out there." Taemin walked over to look at Yu-Jin's screen. The readings showed a medium-sized vessel about 2 hours away at current speed. The ship had smooth, curved lines and what looked like decorative panels along its sides. It was clearly made by intelligent beings, not a natural object floating in space. "Any signs of life?" asked Taemin. "Yes, sir. I'm reading about 50 life forms inside. They appear to be carbon-based, like most species we know." Commander Hee-Jin, the ship's expert on alien life, moved closer to examine the readings. "This is exciting, Captain. The ship's design suggests they're probably new to space travel. Look at these power readings. They're using basic fusion technology." Taemin nodded. The Federation had met many alien races over the years, but finding a new species always brought hope for peaceful contact and new friendships across the galaxy. "Sir," Yu-Jin said with growing excitement, "they're broadcasting something." The main screen changed to show a series of mathematical symbols and universal peace signs. The message was simple but clear. Whoever was on that ship wanted to communicate and meant no harm. "Da-un, prepare the universal translator," ordered Taemin. "Let's see if we can talk to them." Science Officer Da-un worked quickly at her station. Within minutes, she had established a communication link with the alien vessel. The main screen flickered, and then a face appeared. The being on the screen looked remarkably similar to several species in the Federation. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with 2 eyes. Her skin was a light brown color, and she had long dark hair. Most importantly, she was smiling. "Greetings," the alien said in a pleasant voice. "I am So Young, speaking for the people of Terra. We come in peace and friendship." Taemin stepped forward. "Welcome, So Young of Terra. I am Captain Taemin of the Federation vessel Serenity's Dawn. We are honored to meet you." So Young's smile grew wider. "We have dreamed of this day for so long, to meet other beings among the stars. It is wonderful, beyond words." "Tell us about your people," said Hye-Jin, unable to hide her scientific curiosity. "We call ourselves humans," So Young explained. "Our world, Terra, is in a distant part of the galaxy. We have only recently learned to travel between the stars. This is our first time meeting other intelligent life." Taemin felt warmth in his chest. These humans seemed so innocent and eager. It reminded him of the early days when his own people first reached for the stars. "We have been exploring space for several generations now," So Young continued. "But we have found no one else until today. We were beginning to think we were alone in the universe." "You are far from alone," Taemin assured her. "The Federation includes hundreds of different species, all working together in peace and cooperation." So Young's eyes widened with wonder. "Hundreds? That is amazing. We have so much to learn." Over the next hour, the 2 ships moved closer together. So Young introduced 2 other humans who appeared on the screen. Kiho was their science officer, a quiet man who asked thoughtful questions about Federation technology. Yunwoo was their cultural expert, a friendly woman who wanted to know about different alien customs and beliefs. The humans seemed genuinely fascinated by everything they learned. They listened carefully and asked intelligent questions. They spoke of Terra as a world that had overcome war and conflict through wisdom and cooperation. "We used to fight among ourselves," So Young explained sadly. "But we learned that working together was better than fighting. Now Terra is peaceful. We have ended hunger and disease. All humans work together for the good of everyone." Min Ho, the Federation ship's cultural specialist, was impressed. "Your people sound very wise. It took most species much longer to reach such unity." "We learned from our mistakes," Kiho said humbly. "We nearly destroyed ourselves with war. When we finally chose peace, we grew stronger than we ever imagined possible." Lieutenant Namjoon, the ship's security chief, watched the conversation from his station. Something felt different about these humans, but he couldn't put his finger on what it was. They seemed almost too perfect, too peaceful. "Captain," Namjoon said quietly. "Should we invite them aboard? Standard first contact protocols suggest a face-to-face meeting." Taemin considered this. The humans had shown nothing but friendliness. Their ship carried no visible weapons, and their technology seemed primitive compared to Federation standards. There appeared to be no danger. "So young," Taemin said. "Would you like to visit our ship? We would be honored to welcome you aboard." The human woman's face lit up with joy. "We would love that. This is truly a historic moment for both our peoples. We'll prepare our shuttle bay," Taemin replied. "Please bring whoever you wish. We look forward to meeting you in person." As the communication ended, the bridge crew buzzed with excitement. First contact with a new species was always special, but these humans seemed particularly promising. They appeared to be exactly what the galaxy needed, a peaceful, wise species that had learned to live in harmony. Hyojin was already preparing detailed scans and studies. "Captain, I'd like to learn everything I can about their biology and culture. This could be one of the most successful first contacts in Federation history." Daeun was checking the universal translator and preparing translation protocols for the face-to-face meeting. Their language is actually quite beautiful. The mathematical structures suggest a highly logical but creative mindset. Only Namjoon remained quiet, watching the human ship on his security monitors. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was not quite right, but he had no evidence to support his concerns. The humans had done nothing suspicious. They had been open, friendly, and peaceful. Perhaps Namjoon thought he was just being too careful. After years of dealing with aggressive alien species and space pirates, maybe he had forgotten what truly peaceful contact could look like. The Serenity's Dawn prepared to welcome its new guests. Unaware that this moment would change everything, they thought they knew about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss and 3 humans stepped aboard the Serenity's Dawn. Ambassador So Young led the group, followed by Science Officer Kiho and Cultural Attaché Yun Woo. They looked around the shuttle bay with obvious wonder and excitement. "Welcome aboard," Captain Taemin said warmly, stepping forward to greet them. "We are truly honored to have you here." So Young bowed slightly, a gesture that seemed natural and respectful. "The honor is ours, Captain, to be the first humans to set foot on an alien vessel. It is beyond our dreams." The humans were exactly as they had appeared on screen. They seemed fragile compared to many Federation species, with no natural weapons or obvious physical advantages. Their clothing was simple and practical, made from what appeared to be basic synthetic materials. Hyojin immediately began her work, running discrete scans with her handheld devices. The readings confirmed what they had seen from the ship. The humans were exactly what they appeared to be. Carbon-based life forms with no hidden cybernetic enhancements or unusual biological features. "Please follow me," Taemin said. "We've prepared the main conference room for our meeting." As they walked through the ship's corridors, the humans asked questions about everything they saw. They wanted to know how the artificial gravity worked, what the various displays meant, and how different Federation species had contributed to the ship's design. "Your technology is incredible," Kiho said, examining a wall panel with genuine curiosity. "We are still learning so much about space travel. Terra's ships are much simpler than this." In the conference room, the real cultural exchange began. The humans had brought gifts, small pieces of artwork, recordings of their music, and samples of their literature. Everything spoke of a peaceful, thoughtful civilization. Yun Woo shared a small sculpture made from polished stone. "This represents the moment when Terra chose peace over war," she explained. "It sits in our capital city to remind us of what we learned." The music was beautiful, complex harmonies that seemed to blend logic with emotion. Minho, the Federation's cultural expert, was fascinated. "This suggests a species that values both science and art equally. Very impressive." The literature was even more interesting. The humans shared stories of their world's history, tales of how they had overcome Centuries of conflict through wisdom and cooperation. They described Terra's golden age, a time when war, poverty, and disease had been eliminated through scientific advancement and social cooperation. We nearly destroyed ourselves, So Young said sadly. Our wars became so terrible that we finally realized we had to change or die. When we chose cooperation over conflict, everything became possible. Daun was recording everything, analyzing the human language and cultural patterns. Their society seems remarkably stable, she reported to Tai Min privately. Everything suggests they have truly achieved the peace they describe. The humans were equally interested in Federation culture. They asked detailed questions about how hundreds of different species managed to work together. They wanted to know about Federation laws, trade systems, and diplomatic protocols. We hope that someday Terra might join your Federation, Kehoe said. We have so much to learn from you. The Federation welcomes all peaceful species, Taman replied. Your people would fit in well with our values. As the hours passed, the Federation crew became more and more impressed with their guests. The humans seemed to represent everything. The Federation stood for peace, cooperation, and the pursuit of knowledge. However, Lieutenant Namjoon noticed something odd during one conversation. When Minho asked about Terra's exact location in the galaxy, the humans became evasive. We prefer not to give precise coordinates, So Young said carefully. Our people believe it is wise to be cautious when meeting new civilizations. You understand, I'm sure. Of course, Minho replied. Many young species are careful about revealing their homeworld's location. But Namjoon watched the humans' body language during this exchange. Their relaxed, open postures suddenly became more controlled. Their smiles remained, but something changed in their eyes. Just for a moment. Later, when discussing Terra's technology, the humans again became vague. They spoke in general terms about their achievements, but avoided specific details about their ships, weapons, or defensive capabilities. We are still learning, Kehoe said when Daun asked about their propulsion systems. Our technology is very basic compared to yours. Namjoon made mental notes of these moments, but he didn't want to seem suspicious of such obviously peaceful beings. The Federation had protocols for first contact, and everything the humans did fell within normal parameters for a cautious new species. The cultural exchange continued into the second day. The humans seemed genuinely interested in everything. They learned. They took careful notes and asked for detailed explanations of Federation technology and procedures. Your medical knowledge could help us save many lives on Terra, Yunwoo said after touring the ship's medical bay. We still struggle with some diseases that your science has clearly conquered. Dr. Yonsu, the ship's chief medical officer, was happy to share information. The Federation freely shares medical knowledge with all peaceful species. When Terra joins us, your people will have access to all our research. The humans expressed gratitude for everything they learned. They seemed almost overwhelmed by the Federation's generosity and openness. On the third day, Namjoon noticed something else strange. During a tour of the ship's engineering section, Kehoe asked very specific questions about the ship's defensive systems and power distribution. When the tour guide, Engineer Dong Hyun, explained how the shields worked, Kehoe listened, with intense concentration. Just curious about the science, Kehoe explained when he noticed Namjoon watching. On Terra, we love to learn about new technology. Namjoon nodded, but filed the observation away. The questions seemed innocent enough, but they were much more technical than what he would expect from a simple cultural exchange. Later that day, Daun completed her detailed scans of the human delegates. Everything checks out perfectly, she reported. No weapons, no hidden technology, no biological advantages. If anything, they seem more fragile than most spacefaring species. Heejin agreed with the assessment. They're exactly what they claim to be, a peaceful, scientifically advanced species taking their first steps into the galaxy. As the third day ended, Captain Taman felt satisfied with the first contact. The humans had proven to be everything the Federation hoped to find in new species, peaceful, intelligent, and eager to learn. Tomorrow we'll begin formal diplomatic procedures, he told his senior staff. I think Terra will make an excellent addition to the Federation. Only Namjoon remained uncertain. The humans had done nothing wrong, but something in his security training kept nagging at him. He decided to increase passive monitoring of the human vessel, just as a precaution. None of them realized that their 3 days of cultural exchange had already changed everything. Yujin stared at her sensor readings in confusion. Something was wrong with the long-range scanners. The displays showed massive gravitational distortions approaching their star system, but the readings made no sense. "Captain," she called out, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting some kind of gravitational anomaly. Multiple sources all heading this way." Taemin hurried to her station, with Da-eun close behind. The 3 human guests were still aboard, currently in the observation lounge with Minho discussing Federation art and philosophy. "What kind of anomaly?" Taemin asked, studying the readouts. "I'm not sure, sir. The gravitational signatures are enormous. At first I thought it might be a rogue planet or maybe a small black hole, but the pattern is wrong." Da-eun ran additional scans from her science station. "Captain, these readings suggest multiple objects, each one massive enough to bend space-time around it. But they're moving too fast to be natural phenomena." The bridge crew worked frantically to understand what they were seeing. The gravitational distortions were definitely approaching, and they were huge, larger than anything in Federation records. That's when Ambassador So Young appeared on the bridge. Taemin looked up in surprise. "Ambassador, I thought you were with Minho in the observation lounge." So Young's entire demeanor had changed. Gone was the pleasant, curious expression she had worn for 3 days. Her posture was straight and military, her eyes sharp and calculating. She pulled out a small device and spoke into it in rapid, harsh syllables that the universal translator couldn't decode. "Captain Taemin," she said, turning to face him. Her voice was completely different, crisp, authoritative, and cold. "I need to inform you that Terra's main fleet will be arriving shortly for exercises." The word exercises hung in the air like a threat. "Exercises?" Taemin repeated, confused. "Ambassador, what are you talking about?" Before So Young could answer, Yujin's sensors erupted with new readings. "Captain, ships, dozens of them dropping out of faster-than-light travel." The main viewing screen changed to show the incoming vessels, and the entire bridge fell silent. The ships that emerged from hyperspace were not exploration vessels. They were massive beyond imagination, mobile space stations that dwarfed even the largest Federation dreadnoughts. Each one was kilometers long, bristling with what could only be weapon systems, but it was their design that made Taemin's blood run cold. The elegant curves he had admired on the human's small vessel were present on these giants, but now he could see them for what they really were. Weapon ports, thousands of them. The decorative paneling that had seemed so artistic was retracting, revealing armor plating that looked thick enough to withstand anything in the Federation arsenal. "Dear gods," whispered Da-eun. "That little ship we've been hosting, it wasn't a ship at all." She was right. Compared to the massive vessels now surrounding them, the human vessel looked like an escape pod or a small scout craft. Ki-ho and Yunwoo appeared on the bridge, no longer the mild-mannered scientists and diplomats they had pretended to be. Ki-ho moved with the precision of a trained soldier, while Yunwoo's friendly smile had been replaced by the cold expression of a military analyst. "What is this?" demanded Taemin. "What's happening here?" So Young looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Captain, for the past 3 days you have been providing Terra with detailed intelligence about Federation technology, defensive capabilities, and strategic doctrine." Heejin stepped forward, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "Intelligence, but we were conducting cultural exchange. You said you wanted to learn about our society." "We did learn about your society," Ki-ho replied, his previous humble manner completely gone. "We learned about your weapon systems, your ship design, your command structure, and your response protocols. Very educational." Namjoon's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Yunwoo was already holding a device he had never seen before, clearly some kind of advanced weapon. "I wouldn't recommend that," she said calmly. On the main screen, the massive Terran fleet continued to deploy. More ships kept arriving, dozens, then hundreds. Each one was a fortress bristling with weaponry that made Federation technology look primitive. "You lied to us," Taemin said, his voice filled with betrayal. "Everything you told us about Terra, about your peaceful civilization, it was all lies." So Young tilted her head slightly. "Not lies, Captain. Terra is peaceful. We achieved peace through victory. When there's nothing left to fight, war ends." Da-Un was running desperate scans on the human fleet. "Captain, the energy signatures from those ships, they're not just using unknown technology. They're using our technology. Federation technology, but improved and integrated with systems I don't recognize." "Where did you get Federation technology?" demanded Hyojin. Kiho answered with cold efficiency. "From the 17 Federation vessels we've encountered over the past 5 years. Each one provided valuable intelligence and technological samples." The terrible implication hit Taemin like a physical blow. 17 ships, what happened to their crews? "They were integrated into Terra's growing understanding of galactic civilization," So Young replied. "Their knowledge, their technology, their biological data, all preserved and studied." Yujin's voice cracked as she spoke. "Biological data?" Yunwoo held up a small scanner. "Did you think we were just admiring your artwork and music? Every moment you spent with us, we were sampling your DNA, studying your physiology, learning exactly how each of your species functions." Namjoon felt sick as he realized the scope of what had happened. The cultural exchange. "You were studying us like laboratory specimens." "We prefer to think of it as comprehensive intelligence gathering," Kiho said. "Terra's expansion protocols require thorough understanding of target populations before fleet deployment." "Target populations?" Taemin repeated. So Young nodded. "Captain, you and your crew have served Terra admirably. You've provided detailed information about Federation ship design, defensive capabilities, command protocols, and cultural weaknesses. Most importantly, you've given us biological samples from 12 different Federation species." The bridge crew stared in horror as the full scope of the deception became clear. Everything they had shared, every kindness they had shown, every piece of information they had freely given, all of it had been intelligence gathering for an invasion force. "The gifts you gave us," Hyojin whispered. "The art, the music, the literature. Psychological warfare," Yunwoo confirmed. "Carefully, designed to make you underestimate us. Humans excel at appearing harmless while gathering intelligence." On the main screen, the Terran fleet had finished deploying. The Serenity's dawn was completely surrounded by vessels that could destroy it in seconds. "What do you want?" Taemin asked, though he dreaded the answer. So Young looked at him with the same pleasant smile she had worn during their first contact. But now it was terrifying. "Everything, Captain. Terra wants everything." Namjoon reached for the ship's emergency alert system only to find that his console was dead. He tried again, then looked at the other stations. All of them were showing system failures. "I'm afraid your communications are offline," Kiho said casually. "We've been making small adjustments to your systems during our cultural exchange. Nothing harmful. We just wanted to ensure you couldn't send any warnings to the Federation." The Serenity's dawn was trapped, surrounded by an enemy fleet with its own systems compromised by guests they had welcomed with open arms. Taemin looked at the massive ships surrounding them and realized that first contact hadn't been the beginning of a friendship. It had been the end of everything he thought he knew about humanity. The main conference room had become a prison. The Serenity's Dawn crew sat around the table where they had shared gifts and stories just hours before. Now they were captives, guarded by humans who no longer pretended to be peaceful explorers. So Young stood at the head of the table, her hands clasped behind her back in a military posture. Kiho and Yunwoo flanked the exits, their friendly masks completely abandoned. "I suppose you want to know the truth about Terra?" So Young said, her voice carrying an edge of amusement. "After 3 days of lies, you deserve honesty." Taemin stared at her with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "We welcomed you as friends. We shared everything with you." "Yes, you did. So Young agreed. And we're grateful for your generosity. It made our job much easier. Hee-jin leaned forward, her scientific mind still trying to understand. Your job? What exactly is your job? Kiho stepped forward, dropping his previous humble demeanor completely. Intelligence gathering and strategic assessment. I'm not a simple science officer, Commander. I'm Terra's chief military analyst for this sector. And I'm not a cultural attaché, Yunwoo added with a cold smile. I'm a psychological warfare specialist. My job was to make you trust us while we learned everything about your weaknesses. So Young walked slowly around the table as she spoke. You see, Terra did achieve peace just as we told you, but not through enlightenment or wisdom. We achieved peace through absolute victory. Dayun's voice was barely a whisper. Victory over whom? Everyone, So Young replied simply. Terra's local stellar group contained 47 different intelligent species when we began our expansion 3 centuries ago. Now it contains 1. The silence that followed was deafening. You killed them all? Stammered Minho. Kiho shook his head. Killing is wasteful. Terra doesn't destroy. We integrate. Every species we encountered brought something valuable to humanity. Their technology, their knowledge, their biological advantages, all of it became part of Terra's strength. Yunwoo pulled up a holographic display that showed the Terran fleet. Do you see the different ship designs? Each one incorporates the best technology from species that no longer exist as independent civilizations. That cruiser uses energy shields, developed by the Karathi. Those fighters have propulsion systems perfected by the Zilani. The Dreadnought's weapons are based on Thraxian plasma technology. Where are these species now? Asked Hyejin, though she dreaded the answer. They are Terra, So Young said matter-of-factly. Their genetic material has been preserved and studied. Their useful traits have been incorporated into humanity's growing capabilities. Their knowledge lives on in our databases. In a sense, they achieved immortality through integration. Namjoon felt sick. You're talking about genocide. We're talking about evolution, Kiho corrected. Natural selection on a galactic scale. Humanity proved superior to every species we encountered, so we absorbed their strengths and eliminated their weaknesses. So Young continued her slow walk around the table. The process is quite efficient. First, we send scouts, small vessels like the one you encountered. They make peaceful contact, gather intelligence, and learn everything about the target civilization. Target. Civilization, Taemin repeated bitterly. Then our main fleet arrives, Yunwoo continued. By that time, we understand the target's technology, psychology, military capabilities, and social structures. We know exactly how to defeat them with minimal damage to useful resources. Dayun was studying the holographic display with growing horror. Those ships, they're not just carrying weapons, they're carrying entire civilizations' worth of technology. Exactly, Kiho said with pride. Each ship is essentially a mobile laboratory and factory. We can manufacture anything we need using integrated technology from dozens of absorbed species. But your own technology, protested Hyejin. When we scanned your original ship, it was clearly primitive fusion power. So Young smiled. Another useful deception. We always approach new species using technology slightly inferior to their own. It makes them feel safe and superior. Meanwhile, we're learning everything about their advanced systems. The terrible scope of humanity's deception was becoming clear. Namjoon looked at his fellow crew members and saw his own horror reflected in their faces. The cultural exchange, Minho said slowly. The gifts, the stories, the philosophy, all carefully designed psychological manipulation, Yunwoo confirmed. We studied 17 different Federation vessels over 5 years. We learned exactly what approach would make you most comfortable and trusting. The art was created by our integration specialists, Kiho added. The music was composed by absorbed musicians from 6 different species. Even our language patterns were modified to sound more peaceful and philosophical to Federation ears. Taemin felt everything he believed about first contact crumbling. How long have you been watching the Federation? Decades, So Young replied. We've been monitoring your communications, studying your expansion patterns, analyzing your military capabilities. This system was chosen specifically because we knew a Federation survey ship would eventually come here. You planned this entire encounter? Every detail, Kehoe confirmed. We knew exactly which type of ship would be sent, what kind of crew it would carry, and how they would respond to our approach. Da-Un was still studying the fleet displays. Captain, look at this. The ships aren't just large, they're growing. She was right. The massive Terran vessels were extending appendages toward nearby asteroids, consuming the raw materials and incorporating them into their structures. Living ships? Asked He-Jin in amazement. Adaptive ships, Yunwu corrected. Technology. We learned from a silicon-based species in the Outer Rim. Our vessels can consume and integrate any matter they encounter, constantly improving and expanding. Including other ships, added Kehoe ominously. The implication was terrifying. The Terran fleet could literally eat Federation vessels and add their technology to its own capabilities. What happens to us now? Namjoon demanded. So Young stopped her pacing and looked directly at him. That depends on the Federation's response to our expansion. We're hoping for intelligent cooperation. Cooperation? Taemin stood up angrily. You call this cooperation? Captain, sit down, Kehoe said quietly, his hand moving to his weapon. Taemin reluctantly took his seat, but his anger remained. You've lied to us, manipulated us, and threatened us. You call that the basis for cooperation? We call it efficiency, So Young replied. Terra has perfected the art of peaceful integration. Species that cooperate with our expansion retain their cultural identity within Terra's growing empire. Those that resist are absorbed more completely. And if the Federation refuses to cooperate? Asked Da-Un. Unwu's smile was coldly beautiful. Then the Federation will discover why 47 previous civilizations chose integration over extinction. The room fell silent as the crew absorbed the magnitude of what they faced. Humanity wasn't just another aggressive species. They were something far worse. They were a civilization that had turned first contact itself into a weapon of conquest. There is one thing I'm curious about, He-Jin said quietly. Why tell us the truth now? Why not continue the deception? So Young considered the question. Because the intelligence gathering phase is complete. Your ship has provided everything we needed to know about Federation capabilities. Now we move to the next phase, which is integration, Kehoe said simply. The Federation will become part of Terra, just like every other civilization we've encountered. Outside the conference room windows, the massive Terran fleet continued to grow, consuming asteroids and expanding its already overwhelming power. The crew of the Serenity's Dawn realized they weren't just facing an invasion. They were facing the end of everything they had ever known. The massive holographic display in the conference room now showed the full scope of Terra's empire. Hundreds of star systems, thousands of worlds, all under human control. So Young manipulated the display with casual efficiency, showing the Federation crew exactly what they were facing. This is what Terra has become, she said, highlighting system after system. 3 centuries of expansion, 47 absorbed civilizations, and countless technological advances. The Federation represents our largest integration project to date. Taemin stared at the display in growing horror. Each system marker represented entire civilizations that no longer existed. Integration. You keep using that word. What does it actually mean? Kehoe stepped forward, calling up detailed records. It means that useful elements of each civilization are preserved and incorporated into Terra's growing capabilities. Take the Karathi, for example. The display showed a proud-looking species with crystalline features. They were master engineers who built beautiful cities that could withstand any natural disaster. Their architectural knowledge now helps Terra construct better habitats. Where are the Karathi now? Asked He-Jin, though she dreaded the answer. Their genetic patterns are preserved in our biological archives, Yunwu replied. Their best engineering minds were retained as integrated citizens. Their knowledge lives on in Terra's construction projects. You mean some of them are still alive? In a sense, So Young said carefully. Integration allows individuals to contribute their expertise to Terra's growth while being freed from the limitations of their original culture. Namjoon understood the horrifying implication. You brainwash them. We optimize them, Kiho corrected. Unnecessary cultural attachments and inefficient thought patterns are removed. What remains is pure knowledge and capability. The display shifted to show another species, tall, graceful beings with multiple arms. The Zilani were master pilots and navigators. Their spatial awareness was extraordinary. Now their abilities help guide Terra's fleets. And the original, Zilani? Dayun asked. Improved and integrated, Yunwoo said with clinical detachment. Their natural abilities were enhanced through bioengineering. Their cultural obsession with individual freedom was corrected. Now they serve Terra's expansion with perfect efficiency. Taemin felt sick as he began to understand the true horror of Terra's empire. You don't just conquer species, you erase them. You turn them into something else entirely. We perfect them, So Young corrected. Every species has strengths, but they're always limited by cultural weaknesses, biological flaws, or inefficient social structures. Integration removes these limitations. The display continued to show absorbed civilizations. The Vorthak, whose natural camouflage abilities now served Terra's infiltration specialists. The Chindari, whose mathematical genius powered Terra's strategic computers. The Helix, whose regenerative biology had been copied to make human soldiers nearly immortal. Each integration makes Terra stronger, Kiho explained with obvious pride. We don't just take their technology, we take their biological advantages, their mental capabilities, their cultural innovations. Everything useful becomes part of humanity. Hyejin was studying the biological data with growing fascination and revulsion. You've changed yourselves. Humans aren't even fully human anymore. Humanity transcended its original limitations long ago, Yunwoo agreed. We have the strength of the Karathi, the reflexes of the Zilani, the intelligence of the Chindari, and the regenerative abilities of the Helix. We are what evolution should have produced naturally. But what about your original culture? Asked Minho. Your human identity, your history, your values? So Young paused for a moment, and for the first time, something flickered across her face. Uncertainty, perhaps, or a shadow of something. Lost. Terra's culture is the sum of all integrated cultures, she said, but her voice lacked its previous conviction. We preserve the best of everything we absorb. Namjoon noticed the hesitation and pressed forward. But what about specifically? Human culture? Human art? Human philosophy? Human dreams? Kiho's response was immediate and mechanical. Inefficient cultural elements are discarded during optimization. Only useful knowledge and capabilities are retained. So you've erased your own humanity, Da-un said quietly. We've improved it, Yunwoo insisted, but there was something defensive in her tone. The display shifted again, showing Terra's plans for the Federation. System by system, the projection showed how each world would be absorbed, its population integrated, its resources optimized for Terra's continued expansion. The process is actually quite humane, So Young explained, regaining her composure. Federation citizens who demonstrate useful skills will be retained and optimized. The rest will be archived for potential future use. Archived? Taemin demanded. Genetic samples, brain scans, cultural records, Kiho listed matter-of-factly. Complete preservation of all useful biological and intellectual data. You're talking about killing billions of people. We're talking about optimizing galactic civilization, So Young corrected firmly. Individual existence is temporary. Knowledge and capability can be eternal when properly preserved and integrated. But Namjoon was watching the three humans carefully, and he noticed something important. When they talked about Terra's plans, they sounded like machines reciting programming. But when they talked about their own lost humanity, something else showed through. Doubt, perhaps even regret. Ambassador So Young, he said carefully. When you first contacted us, you seemed genuinely excited about meeting other intelligent life. Was any of that real? So Young's mask slipped for just a moment. Terra teaches us to appreciate the value of new civilizations. That's not what I asked. I asked if your excitement was real. Your joy at meeting us. Your wonder at discovering we weren't alone in the universe. Those emotions serve the integration process, Kehoe said quickly, but his voice was uncertain. But were they real? Namjoon pressed. Do you remember what it felt like to be human before all this integration and optimization? The three humans exchanged glances, and for a moment the Federation crew saw something vulnerable in their expressions. We remember efficiency, Yunwoo said, but her voice was quiet. We remember purpose, Kehoe added, but he wouldn't meet their eyes. We remember victory, So-young concluded, but she was staring at the holographic display of Terra's empire with an expression that looked almost sad. Taemin realized that Namjoon had discovered something crucial. You don't remember joy, do you? You don't remember wonder or curiosity or the simple pleasure of discovery. Those emotions are inefficient, So-young said automatically. But you felt them once, didn't you? Before Terra optimized you? The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, So-young turned away from the display. Captain, prepare your crew for transfer to the integration ships. The process will begin within the hour. But as the guards led the Federation crew away, Namjoon caught So-young staring out at the stars with an expression of profound loss. In the corridor, he managed to whisper to Taemin, Captain, I think I understand now. They're not conquering the galaxy. They're running from what they've become. What do you mean? They've absorbed so many other species that they don't know who they are anymore. They've forgotten what it means to be human, as they were taken to the integration ships. Taemin activated his personal communicator one last time, using an emergency frequency he hoped the humans hadn't discovered. This is Captain Taemin of the Federation vessel Serenity's Dawn, he broadcast. First contact with Terra has failed. They are not what they seem. They were once like us, but they've lost themselves in their quest for perfection. Don't let them make you forget who you are. Don't let them take away what makes you, you. The message transmitted just before the communicator was destroyed. Far away, across the galaxy, the Federation received its final warning about humanity. Not about their terrible power, but about the far more terrible price of absolute victory. Outside the viewport, the Terran fleet prepared to continue its expansion, carrying the absorbed remnants of 47 civilizations and the fading echoes of what humanity used to be.